Okay, so to create a semicircle, it's not an intuitive thing, so I do want to go through it with you. All right, to start with, a semicircle is half of a circle. So we're going to go to the compass tool, and we're just going to create a circle here. Okay, once you create your circle, we need to figure out a semicircle relates to a circle in what way? Yep. It's half of it, right? So when you're looking to split this in half, you need to draw a line across. Now here's the mistake. You can't just draw your own segment and say it passes through the center, because if that's the case, it's not locked into place. Okay, so you have to do one of a couple different things that you can do. Okay, so one possibility is, the most likely way that you will want to approach this is you need to make sure that this the segment that you draw here is a diameter, that it extends through this and passes through the center. So if you select your 2 points, the center and the point on the circle that was used to define the circle in the first place, choose construct and select line. It'll pass a line through everything. And then if you don't even have to change to the point tool. You can stay in the selector tool, and if you hover over this and click, it'll put a point at that intersection. Okay. Right. Once you get to this step, what you now need to do, or you don't have to, but again, I want you guys to see what your options are. If you highlight just the line, now, after you finish that, it's likely that the points and the line are all highlighted. Hey, sometimes you have to deselect all the information. So if you just tap, or if you click on an empty part of the screen, it'll deselect everything. And then if you tap just on the line, we can hide this line. We only needed it as a reference. And so to hide it, you have a couple different options. One, you can hit Control-H. That's the shortcut key for it. But one of the things I want you guys to start to understand is if you right-click on an element, you get this list of applications. So you can change the size of it, you can turn it from solid to dashed, you can change the color of it, you can hide it there if you want. So there's a lot of different things that you can do on the right click. So here we're going to hide it, okay, because all we need of that line is this segment. So if you highlight those 2 points and click Control-L, that's the shortcut for create a line segment. Okay, or you can again go up to construct here and create that segment. So now you've created your actual diameter. So no matter where you move these points, and no matter how you adjust this circle, that's going to remain a diameter. And that's the whole point of this application, the Geometer Sketchpad. It's not just to get something to look like what you want it to look like. It's to get something to construct exactly what you want, and so then you can identify and observe any of the properties of it. Okay? All right, so the next thing here that we want to do is we want to use this circle as a reference and create just half of that. So the way that we're going to do that is we're going to place a point on either one of the 2 halves. Okay, deselect everything. And then we're going to select the 3 points. You have to select it in a specific order. Okay, you have to select the end point first, okay, and then in counterclockwise rotation, the next point that's on the arc you want to create, and then the final endpoint of that arc. Okay, so you have to select them in that order, and then you can go to Construct and choose Arc through 3 points. And notice what it does. It turns the reference circle into a dashed line, again kind of indicating that was just a reference for you. So if you deselect everything, and then click on that circle, the dashed portion of that circle, and hit Control-H, we can hide that. So we now have our semicircle. All right, now let's say you want to fill in a polygon or any figure. Okay? The other thing that I want to talk through here is how to fill a polygon or one of the figures that you've enclosed. And so for this one right here, anytime you have a polygon, just select the points in the order, consecutive order, and go to Construct, and you can see the interior, polygon interior is highlighted or is open here. Control-P is the shortcut for that, because the P just means fill the polygon. So again, I can either click this or Control P. And if I wanted to change colors for this, I can right click on it and the colors change here. So if I wanted it to be green or whatever. All right. For a semicircle, it's a little bit different. You're not going to use the points because if you selected these points and then hit Control P, what shape is it going to create? Triangle, right? And you don't want the triangle, you want the whole figure to be enclosed. So if you click on the arc itself and then highlight the construct, that's all you need for the arc. And then you choose either arc sector or arc segment. For a semicircle, and we'll talk more about this in chapter 4, it doesn't matter which one you choose because it winds up being the same thing for a semicircle. But it's probably best on an arc to choose arc sector. And that makes it into kind of like a slice of pie or like a slice of a pizza. Okay? In this case, if you can use the Control P once again for that, and it allows you to fill that entire interior. All right, are there any other questions that have come up on Sketchpad stuff that you maybe want to ask? And I can go through here. All right, I think the last thing that I wanted to go through is or actually two things. All right, if I wanted to name this triangle, ABC, all right, the question has come, do you have to create like a little triangle using line segments in order to put in front of the label? And the answer is no. If you just go to your text tool, draw box, inside of the symbolic notation additional tool, you can't really see it on mine here. I'll have to do something else in a second. But to the right of this is a little drop down. Let me see. There we go. So you get this little drop down on here. And the triangle symbol is embedded within that. So you could then call this ABC. And you have the triangle symbol for it. All right. The last thing that I wanted to talk about is in this, you are going to be asked to draw some different figures that have specific characteristics. So like an isosceles triangle or equilateral triangle or square or rectangle. Okay? What I'd like you to do is experiment with it a little bit, see if you could figure out some ways to make those. Again, we'll talk more about it in each of the chapters designated for the figures itself. But as a last resort, if you need to do an equilateral triangle, okay, as long as it passes the eye test. So does this kind of look like it could be an equilateral triangle? It looks pretty close, right? And so what you can do is make it look close and then use some tick marks to indicate the properties that you're looking for. So if you were looking to make this an isosceles triangle, you can use the marker tool and just create the markings that show that you have equality of sides. If you're looking for it to make or to represent an equilateral triangle, just make sure all of the pieces are marked. So even with a rectangle, okay, just make sure you label the pieces that need to be labeled. So in a rectangle, what you would need to do is just put the little marking for all of the right angles.